Okay, Greg and Amber Brown, why don't you guys come on up? Okay, you're fine. You're fine. This is Greg Brown, his wife Amber. Greg, tell us about where you work.
Good morning.
First off.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
a truck driver for Stan's Food Service now.
Okay. No, not yet.
Not yet. Oh.
What do you like to do for fun? Hobbies?
Oh, it's become napping is my hobby now, but
What was it?
napping.
Napping.
Long naps after work.
Okay.
Yeah, video games, maintenance stuff around the house, kind of dad stuff.
Kind of
basically.
dad stuff. Okay. All right, Greg's going to read his testimony. I want you to go ahead and read your, come on right over here. You can have the safety and comfort of the pulpit right there. And go ahead and share your heart.
All right. I was raised in a single-parent household by my father, along with my sister. Almost any mention of God was met with derision, where the faithful were weird or had strange beliefs, and how we lived our lives had God as a really non-factor. That my parents split around when I was 5 years old, with my mother moving here and there hundreds of miles away, and it really was a detriment to my emotional well-being. I really struggled with the separation for many years to come. So as a young man, I turned to abusing alcohol any chance I got, which really snowballed into a full-on addiction to it, spending what seems like a large portion of my life as if I just got to work every day to provide for my family. That makes me a great husband, father, and role model. So one night I drive down the nearest gas station to get cigarettes, and the store clerk is in a deep conversation with another patron at the counter. And the clerk turns his focus to me and starts explaining very passionately how there is no God, and look at Christians, they worship Jesus, and look at Muslims, they worship Allah, and look at Indians, they worship Vishnu. It's all untrue. And something in that moment was just the push to find out what I was missing about God. I mean, faithless me should have aligned and agreed with everything he was saying, but instead I felt attacked and scrambled out of the store in a daze, wondering what just happened. So arriving home spurred a conversation with my wife about how do we learn about God? Where do we go? What do we do now? We started attending a couple different churches. When I met one of my relatives' old family friends, this was really the first person to dive in with me on a spiritual level concerning addiction and life in general, and was really instrumental in my overcoming addiction and dedicating my life to Christ. I gave up drinking, dedicated my life to Jesus, and I had that man, Jim Ruth, baptize me. From there on, it's daily work of pressing forward to really do what would glorify God. My old life has gone away, cynical, untrustworthy, incompassionate, and selfish and self-centered. There are more things to this life when you follow Jesus. Now in my life, helping or serving others doesn't seem so burdensome, or living a lifestyle I used to seem as weird or strange. Now it makes sense with the Bible and Jesus as a guide.
Amen. All right, so tell me, this is Amber.
I told Steve I should have went first because now I'm already crying.
That's all right. So tell me what you do for a living.
I am a pediatric dental hygienist.
Okay, and what do you like to do for fun other than napping with Greg?
He naps on his own.
Okay.
I love to read. I'm a big avid reader.
Okay.
So
Good. All right, Mandy's going to read her testimony. So, Mandy, you want to come on over and we're going to share her testimony.
Okay. As a child, I grew up in a house with parents that believed in God but never went to church. My father was raised in a Catholic home and attended Catholic schools up until middle school and high school. He felt like the religion was forced on him, so my parents wanted us to be able to make the decision on our own. To me, that's like telling your child they could become a doctor if they wanted, but never sending them to school. As a teenager, I was rebellious. I experimented with drugs, marijuana, and alcohol, and looked for love and acceptance in all the wrong places. After Greg and I had our first son, Blake, we began to attend a Brethren church. Not out of our love for God, but out of obligation. I believed in God and wanted my children to believe in him as well. Little did I know at the time that believing in him and knowing him were two very different things. I can't pinpoint a day or time when I fell in love with the Lord. What I can tell you is that through multiple traumas, tragedies, and losses, each one opened my eyes, my heart, and my soul a little more and drew me closer to him. All of which I wouldn't see for years after the fact. Unanswered prayers that I can now see wasn't God ignoring me, but instead him having compassion and love for me enough not to answer them. My love for the Lord grew under the pastor Sam Barrington at Livingstone's Church in South Bend. But the greatest thing of all was to see our boys growing in their love for the Lord. I gave my life to the Lord in 2012 through baptism. A couple of years later, Greg and Carter were both baptized together at Livingstone's. As most of you know, on September 15th, 2020, we lost our son Carter to suicide. I truly believe that Satan attacked him at his weakest point while he was isolated from his school, friends, and the normal teenage life he should have been experiencing. He lost the battle of spiritual warfare. During this life-shattering time, especially in the first weeks, when his heart had been shattered into dust, my soul, my spirit drew closer to God. I've never felt God so tangibly as I did on the days that followed Carter's death. At his viewing, I felt the hand of God on me, holding me upright. God has taken the tragedy Satan used to crush my heart to dust, to reshape, recreate, and reinvent it into something stronger than it ever would have been before. God created man from dust. Genesis 2:7 says, "Then the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground." Isaiah 64:8 says, "Yet you, Lord, are our Father. We are the clay, you are the potter. We are all the work of your hand." Jesus healed a blind man with dust in John 9, verses 5 through 7. In her book, It's Not Supposed to Be This Way, Lisa Turquist writes, "When we place our dust into God's hands, he mixes it with his living water. The clay that's formed can then be made into anything." She smiled so big, a girl in line I was talking to when Mom was and I was telling her my new book was about dust. She'd seen clay being formed into many beautiful things when placed in her mother's hands. She told me that the potter not only knows how to form beautiful things from clay, but they also know how important it is to add some of the dust from previously broken pieces of pottery to the new clay. This type of dust is called grog. To get this grog, the broken pieces must be shattered to dust just right. If the dust is shattered too finely, then it won't add any structure to the new clay. And if it's not shattered enough, the grog will be too coarse and make the potter's hands bleed. But when shattered just right, the grog dust added to the new clay will enable the potter to form the clay into a larger and stronger vessel than ever before. And it can go through fires much hotter as well. And this is what God is doing in me as we speak. And I'm grateful that he has brought us here to Cornerstone, that he has brought us home.